Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to another video. If you guys are new here, hello, my name is Abigail May. I've been creating content on YouTube since I was 13. But anyways, with that being said, I wanted to talk to you guys today about the 4th trimester. I've seen some of my favorite YouTubers do kind of just a recap of those 12 weeks after having a baby, and one specific video in general is Michelle Reed. I don't know if you guys follow her, but she recently became a mom back in November, and she did a 4th trimester recap, and so I want to do the same. This is going to be a longer video, I'm just warning you guys now. So if you like sit down videos, whether in the background as noise while you do your laundry or while you're taking a bath or whatever it is, just grab your cup of coffee because it is going to be a long one. I also want to preface this and say that everyone's postpartum experience is completely different. Your first baby postpartum is going to be different than your second baby postpartum. My postpartum experience so far has been different than my sister's, and that's just how it is, and that's okay. So everything I share in this video, do not take it as, oh, that's how mine is going to be. But anyways, without further ado, let's get on into this video. Okay, so first things first, I want to talk about just physical healing. I did a little video on kind of his birth story, and what that looked like. And for me, I feel like my labor and delivery was pretty calm. I had in my head thought that it was going to be this huge, and it is a huge momentous occasion, but I had pictured nurses and doctors running around and like all this scary stuff happening, and that can happen, and I'm not saying that it can't. It can absolutely happen. In fact, like my first baby could be completely different than my labor and delivery with my second baby, so I just want to keep that in mind. But my first baby labor and delivery was very, very easy. I did get an epidural, I want to say that. My epidural was pretty strong, I also want to say that, because I could almost feel 0 contractions, I could almost feel 0 pressure when it came time to pushing. So that's what I mean by it was pretty calm and pretty easy. I did push for about 4 hours, which is insane, but it was because his head was kind of tilted a little bit, so it was making it more difficult for him to come out. Also, my contractions, when I got the epidural, they started furthering apart, and they weren't as strong either. So I had to, at first we tried to naturally let oxytocin occur, but then that was working, but it wasn't working well enough and quick enough, so they just put me on a Pitocin drip. Did not feel any different than when I wasn't on it, so I didn't really see anything wrong with that personally. But anyways, when he came out, I had a few tears. I had a few 2nd-degree tears. They didn't tell me how many stitches I had. In all honesty though, it did not feel like a lot. It wasn't like my stitches was not the really painful part, if that makes sense. I feel like overall healing was really good. I was walking pretty slow for the first like 2 to 3 weeks, just trying to regain just like that, my physical health, I guess, back. And another side of it too was just like my core felt so weak. And you'll know that like when you go through pregnancy and then you have a baby, like if this is your first kid, your core is gonna feel so weak. You're gonna feel so weird and wobbly. I don't really know how to put it. Like that's just like my initial thought is like you're gonna feel really wobbly and weird, and yeah, you just had a baby, and like, and I don't know how to explain it. So along with my physical healing, I also want to talk about just the weight journey. I really struggled gaining the weight during pregnancy. Everyone's gonna gain weight. Everyone gains weight differently. And in my head, I had pictured, oh, I'm gonna gain, you know, anywhere between 25 to 35 pounds, and that's gonna be it. It'll all be okay. I did not. I gained almost 60 pounds during my pregnancy, and that was really hard. It was difficult to see my body change and know that there was nothing I could do about it at that moment. Like, I could of course eat healthy and watch how much I give into my cravings and all of that stuff, but other than that, like, I couldn't like work it out, or you know what I mean. Yes, every now and again I do struggle, because I started off my pregnancy being 135 pounds and I ended my pregnancy being like 191. But I did see a drastic change once I had him. Obviously you lose a lot of fluids, you lose a lot of weight in general. I want to say those first 3 months. I want to say in the first 2 weeks I went from 191 to like 155 or something. I don't even know. So yeah, so I guess it just changed in the sense that like my body is never gonna be the same again. Like, I had a baby, my hips are different, my body composition is different. Even if I get back to my like weight goal or my pre-pregnancy weight or whatever the heck it is, my body will still be different. I still have stretch marks up the wazoo, and that was one thing I was not prepared for. Like, I was like, oh, like, I'm just gonna get stretch marks on my stomach and it'll be okay, blah 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 blah. No. Alright, so if you don't know already, if you're not a mom or you don't know any of these things in general, even if you're a dude watching this, I don't know, when you have a baby, they typically want you to latch the baby on to the breast as soon as possible, and he did really good latching on. I will say the first month of breastfeeding is hard, and it wasn't hard for me mentally or because he wouldn't latch or whatever it was. It was hard for me more physically than anything, just because it was very painful for me. That first month was very painful. My breasts became cracked and they were bleeding, and at one point I would only latch him onto one side just because the other side hurt worse and he didn't latch as good on the other side. So I don't know, I feel like even though there was like pain to it the first month, it felt pretty like good, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to explain this. But yeah, so we did that. I also pumped as well to have a freezer stash, and then I did start bottle feeding around 2 weeks, bottle feeding breast milk, that is, and I wanted to introduce a bottle sooner rather than later, just because he was well established with breastfeeding at that point. He did a really good job at latching and all that stuff, and so my pediatrician gave us the go-ahead to introduce a bottle, and I'm really grateful that I did that, because now he takes really well to both bottle and breast. He doesn't have preferences in that area, which is really nice, and I really liked being able to bottle feed, because I liked being able to give some of that to my husband. Like, I loved being able to be like, okay, like, I want you to bottle feed him, and I want to make dinner tonight, or I want to go out and get a coffee with a friend, or whatever it was. And it just allowed him, gave him the authority to do that, which was really nice. And now we have a new rhythm where at night he feeds him with a bottle. And we started doing that because it allowed me to get ahead on rest. So if he did wake up during the middle of the night, obviously like I'm the one feeding him, and so I would have a little bit more rest than Gentry, and Gentry would be able to sleep in the morning. So that's kind of how we chose to do that. We also formula feed, so we do, I forget what it's called. Well, we formula and breastfeed. So that was something else that I wanted to do as well. I know there's a lot of moms out there who are like strictly breast milk, strictly whatever it is. We only do formula, we only do breast milk, whatever it is. And I see value on both sides, and I wanted him to not be picky. Because I knew that for so many moms, they have to give up their breastfeeding journey and they have to formula feed. And I in my head I was like, if that is going to happen, or if that may happen, not that it's going to, but if it does happen, I don't want it to be a battle for him to try and drink formula. And so I think around 2 months is when we introduced formula. We did a little bit at a time, slowly progressed to where we're at now, where we probably give him one bottle of formula a day, just at night. Every other part of the day is breast milk, and that's just how we do it. That's just what we do, and every family does it differently. And you know, some moms only do breast milk, and you know, maybe in my next pregnancy I'm like, that's all I want to do. I just want to breastfeed. I don't want to bottle feed, or whatever it is. But yeah, so that's just kind of how we do things. I will say we had a little bit of a moment during our breastfeeding journey, where we took him to the pediatrician. He was really bloated and had a rash, and I didn't realize. I thought it was just baby acne, like, so I did not think that anything was wrong. And the pediatrician said, like, she's like, I just noticed that, like, he has a rash and he's a little bloated. She's like, you might want to back off from dairy for a while. She said some babies have a dairy, not allergy, but kind of like an allergy for like the first few months. So she was like, you might want to back off for a little bit and then try and ease back into the dairy. So that big old freezer stash that I had of milk, I had to throw the whole thing away, unfortunately, because all of it had dairy in it, because I am someone who consumes dairy on a regular basis, because I would have it in my lattes, in my coffee. I would have cheese on all these different things. Now we're to the point where I can have a little bit of dairy every day and it doesn't affect him, but I know that if I have a lot of dairy, he's gonna be really upset, really gassy, really fussy. Sometimes he'll get a rash. Okay, let's move on to the next thing, because this video is gonna be like an hour long if I don't shut up. Okay, let's talk about the challenging days. This one should be a short one, I hope, but about a month into having Gentry David, my husband Gentry had to go on a retreat with a bunch of youth for, I want to say, like 4 or 5 days, and he was only a month old at that point. I think he was going through a few things, like changes and stuff like that, because he was at his peak of fussiness at this point. I was never able to sit him down to go do anything. It took me forever to put him down for a nap, and when he would go down for a nap, like, he would only sleep for 30 minutes unless like I was holding him, and that was very, very challenging. And during that week when I didn't have Gentry at home, I was almost never able to get a single thing done. Whether it was as simple as like eating, to taking a shower, to literally just having a moment to chill by myself, and that was really, really hard. And I do have to say that I did not do a good job at reaching out to other people saying, hey, I need help. And it wasn't until the very last day of camp that I texted my sister and said, hey, like, I need you to come over because I've been alone this entire week and I just need to shower and eat breakfast. And she was like, why did you not text me at the beginning of the week? She's like, I would have come over like an hour every day to make sure that like you can get a few things done or whatever it was. So she came over and she actually made me breakfast, and then she held him and watched him as I took a shower and just kind of got myself ready for the day. But that was a really challenging week. Like, Gentry, I was calling Gentry every single day and I was literally bawling on the phone because I was just so exhausted and so, I don't know what to say. I was not okay. And every day I was like, I can't wait till we go to bed, because at night was the only time that he would take long stretches of sleep. And so to me, like, every day I looked forward to going to bed because I was like, he's gonna sleep for a really long time. I'm gonna sleep for a really long time. Like, it's the only break that we really got. And those are just really hard. And those are some really challenging things. And I think it also can be challenging too, like when your baby's a newborn, sometimes you feel like all you're doing is feeding them and putting them to bed and changing their diaper. And in those first like few phases, like sometimes it can feel like they're not interacting with me. They're not smiling yet, they're not cooing, they're not doing really much anything. And so while it's sweet to snuggle them, it can be really hard because you just feel like all you are to them is their food source. And that is really hard and really isolating, and something I wish I had done more in that first like 6 to 8 weeks was I wish I had invited more people in to my life to help me out as much as possible. And that I really struggled with. I didn't want people to come over and see him crying or see me in distress, or I didn't want people to come over and see my house in a mess and all those things. And those things in reality do not matter in the long run. Like, what matters more are those relationships, and those people are coming over to take care of you. Okay, we are in part 4. I apologize, this video is gonna be like 50 minutes long and no one's gonna want to watch all the way through. But I want to talk about leaving your baby. So during pregnancy, I had this thought that leaving my baby, I was gonna be like up in tears, crying, like all this stuff. And it was hard. It was, but I didn't have the reaction that I thought I would, and I felt guilty for it until my mom told me not to. So the first time Gentry and I left little Gentry David was when he was 2 months old. We went on a date night. It was about a 4 hour date night. We went out to eat in the city and then went out to a park and did a little boating action and then went back home. We left him with one of our friends from church who I trusted, and he did good. Like, he did really good. He slept practically the entire time and was just a happy baby. And I think my thought was that I was going to be more up in tears than I was. I was more relieved, but also worried. I was worried because I was like, oh my gosh, what if something goes wrong? What if he won't stop crying and they don't know how to handle it? What if it becomes too much for them? Which they have the people we left him with, they have a 1-year-old right now, so they've been through the newborn stage and everything, and I was just more worried than anything that he was gonna cry or something was gonna go wrong or whatever it was than sad. And I was relieved because I was excited to go on a date with my husband. I was excited to have some alone time with my husband, and at the time I felt like this is wrong. Like I shouldn't be excited or relieved to go on a date night with my husband. And I remember telling my mom that I was like, I didn't cry. I was excited to see him when I got back. Like I was so excited to see him, but I was not bawling my eyes out like I thought it was. And my mom was like, do not feel guilty for that. She's like, people will tell you that you should feel guilty if you don't feel sad leaving your baby, but sometimes it can feel like relief. Sometimes it can feel like, oh, this is so nice to be able to just have one-on-one adult interaction with your husband, and that is okay. It doesn't mean that you do not love your baby. It does not mean that you do not care for your baby or that you don't want to see your baby or whatever it is. She said having relief to go on a date with your husband is good, is okay. And so just having that affirmation and confirmation, is that the word I'm trying to use? I don't know. From my mom that is an okay feeling and not to feel guilty about it was so good and very much needed. So if you are at that point where you're like, okay, I want to like try venturing out, don't feel bad if you feel relief of having just alone time either with yourself or with your husband or even with a friend. Just know that it is okay. All right, I feel like I should added this into the challenging days, but I want to talk about coming back to work. So I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I don't work from home or anything. I am a part-time kids ministry resident at my church, and I went back to work at 6 weeks, and that was so hard. That first month back at work was so hard because I didn't put him in a daycare for the first month. He was with me the entire time, went to almost every single meeting. We would rock in the nursery room. I would like feed him in the nursery, all that stuff. But it was hard because my mind was literally like split in two places. Like I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like I am not being a good staff member. I'm not being a good friend because my mind is thinking about my baby and his needs and what he needs next and how it's his nap time schedule and how he needs to eat and all this stuff. Meanwhile, I'm trying to work and remember important things in meetings and text people and call people and all this stuff, and I felt like my mind was just never there. Like my mind was always with my son, which is not a bad thing, like he is my son, but I was never able to focus when I was at work because I was always thinking about my son and his needs, which is so good, but it also became difficult because I would end up screwing things up at work and forgetting things and not being the best friend that I could be to the people that I work with, and that was really hard. A month into working, we put him into daycare, which is part-time. So we put him in daycare on Tuesdays and Thursdays from like 8 to 1 or something like that, which has been very nice because he's in daycare at the church with me, so I can go and see him anytime I want. He's in the same building as me. I'm not driving two separate places, which is so nice, and I'm so grateful for because I know a lot of people don't have that. And so I put him in daycare twice a week, and the other 2 days that I work, he is with me. I will say that when he is with me, I don't get a lot done. I typically have a lot of meetings on those days, but I don't often get a lot of computer work done, or if I need to meet with someone. I don't often get to meet with them on a Monday or Wednesday. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are like my work load days, where I will shove as much work and as much time meeting with people as I can on those days, because I know that when it gets to Monday and Wednesday, like, I am not going to get that time, which is okay. But he does so good in daycare, and he loves it. He just chills out right now. He doesn't really have much interaction with the other kids, because the other kids are closer to a year. But yeah, so that first month was really hard coming back, but it has gotten a lot easier now. I would say since putting him to daycare, it's allowed me to put more thought into work, which is nice, and good. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about coming back to work. I know everyone's experience is going to be different. A lot of people are going to have to put their child in a whole separate daycare and then drive to work, and that's really hard. That has been my experience coming back to work, and I'm very grateful for just the team that I work with, because they've all been so gracious. And I will say that there are, I want to say like 17 people on staff at our church, and like over half of them are women who have kids. And so they obviously know what I'm going through. They know the different stages and all of that stuff. So it's been so nice for them to be like, you know what, like, I understand. Like, it's okay if he cries. You can give him to me. Like, if you need to go get something done, which has been so nice. And again, I am so grateful for. Last thing I want to talk about is the last month and a half. So he is currently 3 months. No. Yeah, I hope he's 3 months right now. And let me just tell you, months 2 and 3 have been so sweet, so amazing. You see so many milestones being hit in these next 2 months, and I'll see a whole bunch more being hit until he's probably about like 6 months or so. So I'm so excited for that. But just hearing him coo and smile, and seeing him babble and learn to put his hands to his mouth, and learn to, right now he's like learning to hold on to toys and like put them to his mouth. And what else? He just smiles at people and coos at people, which is so awesome and so fun. And he's learning to roll right now. Like, he literally will put him on the floor and he'll turn side to side. He hasn't learned to roll on his stomach yet, but he's just kind of like turning side to side. And he is holding his head up so good right now. His wake windows are a lot longer. Like, he'll be awake for like an hour and a half before he gets tired, which is so awesome. It's so fun to be able to hang out with him and talk to him and just do all of these things. I feel like that first month and then going into month 2, it's really hard because they're not really doing much. I know every baby's different. Some babies have stronger necks at a young age. Some babies smile sooner at a young age. But I've just been able to see these changes within the last like 2 months, and it's been so insane. And it's so crazy how much can change in 3 months. Like, I tried to film this video yesterday, but in that video I just said how like 3 months feels like such a short time. And when you say he's 3 months old, like, that feels so like, oh my gosh, he was only born 3 months ago and he's already doing so much. But at the same time, like, it feels like he has been here for forever. And I don't know, it's just so exciting when you get to that 2 to 3 month stage, because you see all these different milestones that they're hitting, and it becomes a lot more fun and interesting and all that stuff. So I don't know, I kind of just wanted to end on a high note, because I know that those first 12 weeks after having a baby are so hard, physically, mentally, emotionally, and sometimes even spiritually. There have been so many days where like I have felt disconnected from God through this journey, and I finally feel like I am starting to have that connection again, which is so nice and so great. But yeah, that has been the first 12 weeks after having him. It's been so sweet, so good. I feel like it's just felt like a blur, it all happening, and I'm so excited for this next few stages, because in a month he'll be able to start trying purees and foods and stuff, and like we're gonna start our sleep training journey really soon, and there's just so many exciting things that like I am just so excited for. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was such a long video, but I appreciate you guys watching, subscribing, and liking this video. Please subscribe and like this video. It helps me know that you enjoy the content, you enjoy what I'm posting. If you guys have any suggestions of things you want to see, I am so open to a suggestion. Sometimes I get in a rut and I feel like I post the same things over and over and over again, and I don't want to feel like that. So if you guys have any suggestions of what you would like to see, I would love to see those. So just comment them below. But I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys